Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Anthony Breen, and I work on solution management and customer advocacy at AHEAD. And we are partnering with the CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Anusha Dandapani, the Chief Data Officer at the United Nations International Computing Center. Anusha, I have just a great pleasure to speak with you, and I'm excited to do this interview.
Likewise, it's a pleasure is also mine. Thank you, Anthony. My name is Anusha Dandapani. I'm the Chief Data and the Analytics Services Officer at United Nations International Computing Center.
Awesome. Well, Anusha, we're thrilled to have you, and let's just jump in. So, obviously the United Nations, it's a global entity, right? There's a lot that goes on with the United Nations. So as the United Nations is developing their vision and their goals for 2021, obviously coming off of an unparalleled year of 2020, how has data played a role into setting that vision?
The UN vision, as expressed by our Secretary General Antonio Guterres, is that data comprises and reveals the whole UN ecosystem. He has also proposed a strategy on new technologies as well as data strategy that is going to not just help us but also guide us towards our 2030 UN goals. See, this data strategy was designed with a correlation-based and like an overarching approach to help everyone within the UN family to deliver more value from data in a responsible manner. And on also recognizing that the better data use is not just integral, but it is also the future, because our journey begins with a vision for becoming more of a data-driven organization. See, because our vision is set, in pursuit of our data vision, our focus is based on the 7 outcomes that has been shared with us. Number 1 is for us to make data to help serve us better, being the strong core pillar in our decision-making process and also to drive our thought leadership. And number 2 is to focus on a greater data accessibility. Thereby, we are not just giving access, we are sharing internally and externally the data that we have access to. The third specific principle that's described to us is improved governance and collaboration for impact and the integrity. And number 4 is data protection and privacy. It is one of the key and the core pillars for us with regards to respect for human rights. And number 5 is greater efficiency in programs. We want to leverage data to drive better efficiency across all the programs that led by United Nations. And improved transparency, and last but not least is to make sure that we are providing as UNICC, which is United Nations International Computing Center, data-driven services for our clients and our stakeholders. See, it is of utmost importance for us to focus on unlocking the full data potential, for us not also to make better decisions and also to stronger support our people and the planet. But in this moment, that matters the most, such as this, where like we are now on a year into a decade of action to deliver all the 17 sustainable development goals by 2030. But and with COVID-19 still ravaging the planet, there is more to do.
No question. And I think that, you probably would agree that there's more access to data now than there were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? It's with how fast data is accelerating, right? How do you ensure that data is quality data, right? And ensuring that that's quality data, how does that change the operational structure, right? How does the access to data completely change how you decide to operate at the UN?
That's a very interesting and also one of the biggest challenges that we face. See, addressing these challenges for the people and the planet actually goes beyond the capabilities of our organizations, right? Like, some of the data quality challenges that we face are, like, for example, we at UNICC spend significant time and effort in processing our UN system-wide data for aggregation purposes. And also, what we see work very well has been that by providing smarter tools to support data quality and then also governance, we help our users not just to standardize, cleanse, and enrich this data, but also facilitate their use. So there is a need we see for integrated, comprehensive, and high-quality data at all levels across many UN agencies and the funds and the programs that we help support. But access to data with greater accuracy, transparency, and also accountability is the key for us to improve. And getting to a stage where our capabilities are truly transformative will not happen overnight. Our roadmap is long term, and we will engage with everyone and everywhere. So data quality is a key aspect that we do face as a challenge at the UN.
Absolutely. And speaking about data challenges, right, quality isn't the only challenge, right? Data, when it just by its nature has complexity that, especially at the UN level, significant complexity, language complexity, quality complexity, location, complexity, just the formatting of data, right? So, in addition to the challenge of quality, what are the other challenges that you face with data? And then what solutions have you found that help lead you to the outcomes you're looking to gain?
See, in the past, some of us regarded data as an isolated concern for specialists, and UN as an organization was focused on specialists in IT or statistics, right? But today we all recognize that the power of data, the purposes that involve data and analytics, it goes virtually in all aspects of what we do in the development work, in peacekeeping, and in security, humanitarian concerns, and also in human rights. Some of the top four challenges that, if I may highlight, would be: number one, managing data, using and sharing data is integral to our success of what we deliver. But we are not equipped to treat the data as a shared strategic asset and create optimal value. That is one of the challenge and that we do face. Number two is currently our data is often acquired, stored, and used only for single purpose, right? And within the pillar or the function that that particular agency is meant to do. But access to this is often difficult, and partly because it's the lack of awareness of what the data could help others, or even how we can better share. We haven't sort of thought this through from the start yet. And the number three, see, in addition to these uneven practices in data management, and we also have data quality gaps, as I highlighted before, and it also limits our ability to harness advanced methods like machine learning responsibly, and it has also created new risks in the application layout. And also in future, in order for us to have an integrated whole of the United Nations approach, we will need to build synergies and have the data sharing and the interoperability capabilities that to encourage openness and also learning. With this strategy, that data strategy that is being prescribed, we are at an inflection point, and we are working towards common standards and best practices. And I do see a lot of hope in getting that.
Absolutely. So obviously challenges can affect the strategy with data, right? Overcoming those challenges. But also what's unique about the UN, right, is that there's a lot of, actions and decisions from outside entities that play a role and a factor, right? So, how do the actions and decisions of corporations affect data strategies in the UN?
I would say, the SDG goal number 17 that is prescribed for the UN is all about partnerships, and all the efforts in the UN family are predicated on a wide and a multilateral conversation. See, while better abilities will in part emerge by learning by doing, but we also need to foster stronger enablers. What we mean by that is focusing on partnerships to connect outside the UN family, so we can deliver more value at scale. Example of one such partnership would be achieving universal connectivity by 2030. Everyone should have safe and affordable access to internet, or also promoting digital public goods to unlock more equitable world is one of our goals, where we make sure that the internet and the open source and sort of initiatives are being supported. So building and supporting a strong and sustainable data partnership is our focus, so that we can make sure that we jointly tackle these toughest challenges, and also make sure that when we deliver solutions, it is for the people and for the planet.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Because, ultimately the UN, is a governing body, but it takes everybody, right? It takes everyone coming together to meet those goals. And speaking of a goal, the UN launched its 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in 2015 with the ultimate goal of peace and prosperity for people on the planet. What role do you think technology has had and will continue to have in helping organizations roadmap to meet that goal?
The 2030 agenda will actually require bold changes to the United Nations development system, and also for the emergence of new generation of platforms for the countries, and also making sure on a strategic UN development assistance framework, there needs to be this principles led by impartial, independent, and empowered resident coordinator as a UN, right? But technology is a huge accelerator for these SDGs goals, right? And it is an age where interdependence and no one can get without this digital transformation. And the real change today, I think, will happen across the UN family by itself, by implementing this strategy. And I believe that we should be both ambitious and also humble, is how Antonio Guterres says that. But while technology is the accelerator, data and data strategy and the fulfillment is at the center of achieving these goals that is set for 2030, and making better use of data with approaches that is grounded by the UN values and the human rights as the integral part of the center. Our services is focused on to making sure that we can unlock the potential, and also making sure that we are able to address all the decade of SDG goals that's been set to us. Some of the priorities that has been set for data for action, or number one is climate action. It's top of our priorities. Number two is gender equality. Number three is human rights and the rule of law. And peace and security is number four. Governance and ethics for the future. And all these principles are based on the basic commitment of UN reform. Hopefully, I'm able to sort of share my thought process from a UN family perspective. And all I have is a lot of hope for 2030.
I think we can all agree that we have hope for 2030. And I think we can all agree that, having the goal of peace and prosperity for people on the planet, doesn't that sound great, especially after the year that we've just had. So I'd like to thank you for joining us, Anusha. And, for those watching, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. And, it's just a pleasure to have you today, Anusha.
Pleasure is mine, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you.